Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I am your host, Lonnie Jones. My wife Jackie and I moved to the city of Huntsville in 1986 for me to be a youth and family minister. I have been a minister since 1980. I have served in this community as a police chaplain assigned to a SWAT team since 1992, and I've been in private practice as a licensed professional counselor since 1998. I'm also an adventure educator and an avid outdoorsman. I dabble in rock climbing and I goof around with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our life has been full of many wonderful experiences and some just outright adventures. I used to write about those things in a little church bulletin article. So now instead of asking you to read those things, we're just going to talk about them in our podcast. And as we talk about them, we're going to talk about the facts. The facts lead to concepts, and the concepts lead to application. One caveat about the facts is, for the most part, we're going to tell you the facts just as they happened. But every now and then, we're going to tell you the way other people have told us they remember it happening with a little bit of embellishment. It's all good, clean fun and for educational purposes. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy Keeping Up with Jones. Faulkner University announces a 60% tuition discount for members of the Church of Christ. Now, there are some guidelines. This 60% tuition reduction is applicable to adult undergraduate Bible degrees or graduate Bible degrees from the Curley Graduate School of Theology in the VP Black College of Biblical Studies. You must satisfy all admission requirements and maintain satisfactory academic progress. You must remain continuously enrolled, including summers, until the completion of the degree. You must provide a letter from an elder or minister, preferably on church letterhead, verifying that you're an active member of a Church of Christ congregation prior to your initial enrollment. This offer applies to adult undergraduate degrees such as biblical studies, youth and family ministry tracks, and it also includes graduate degrees. And those are the Master of Arts in Biblical Studies, the Master of Arts in Family Life Ministry, or a Master of Theology, and it also applies to the PhD in Biblical Studies. For undergraduate inquiries, please contact Adult Enrollment, 334-386-7140, 334-386-7140, or Adult Enrollment at Faulkner.edu. That is Adult Enrollment at Faulkner.edu. For graduate inquiries, please call 334-386-7539, 334-386-7539. Graduate enrollment at Faulkner.edu. That is graduate enrollment at Faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding, and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. It is well established that just before turning 40, I took up snowboarding. Yes, I was trying to get on the cover of Old Dog's New Tricks magazine, and I was hooked. I was hooked on my very first trip. We went out to Snowshoe, West Virginia in the fall, and then later I got to go out in the winter of basically the same. It wasn't the same calendar year, but it was the same year. I got to go out in the winter to Winter Park, Colorado, and I was obsessed. I was mildly obsessed from the very first trip. I was hooked, and I wanted more. It's almost like the obsession that hit me when I learned how to bow fish. I got taken out on a boat and tried to shoot fish with the bow and arrow, and I loved it. I loved it even though I wasn't very good at it, and so I wanted to do it more and more. Uh, the cure for this with my bow was I invented a game, and I would invite Jackie to play. It was, hey, would you like to go to the river and play fish? Now, in order to go to the river and play fish, one must stand in the middle of the river, the Flint River, and it's not very deep, and hold a PVC pipe, and attached to the end of the PVC pipe would be, a small Coke bottle or a 2-liter bottle, and the person who's the fish holds the bottle under the water, and the other person shoots at it with their bow. When I explained the rules of the game to Miss Jackie, um, well, I can't describe the accuracy at which she explained to me that this would never happen in our foreseeable lifetime as a couple together. However, my good friend Troy Farmer did play fish with me. And in fact, he wanted to learn to be a better bow fisherman. And we went down to the Flint River, and I had the PVC pipe, and I had run a piece of small cord through the pipe and tied it to the bottle. And I could actually hold the pipe and move the bottle under the water, or I could hold the pipe to the bottom and release the string, and the bottle would scoot out across the bottom of the river, and Troy could practice shooting at it with his bow. When you shoot at something under the water, you have to adjust for the refraction of the water. Things aren't exactly where they appear to be. Now, the particular stretch of the Flint River that we practice in is also one of the places where the local canoe and kayak group launches and takes out of the river. So we're in the middle of the river. It's not super deep where we were shooting, and we're trying to practice, but we get invaded by this armada. People come by in canoes and kayaks and inflatables, and people floating on inner tubes and all kind of things. In all fairness, my friend Troy Farmer is single. He's never been married, and he's easily distracted by attractive females. He's easily distracted by looking at and looking for girls. We were driving down the road to go on a road trip somewhere, and I looked 600 yards out into a field and see a deer. Troy once told me, he said, if my life is reduced to seeing a deer 600 yards out into a bean field, I'll kill myself. If you're riding in the car with Troy, Troy will point out every redhead and every blonde that you drive by. So we go down and spend, a little bit of time practicing shooting the bow at the underwater bottle in the Flint River. And when we get back, Jackie decides she's going to tease Troy. And she said, so Troy, was it hard to concentrate on shooting the bottles in the river with all of the eye candy floating by? To which Troy responded, people do not take their trophy wives to the Flint River. And I'll just leave it at that. But back to snowboarding. Here I am in the early stages of a new hobby. And you basically have a limited season. I have limited resources, and I have limited opportunities to get some more experience and perfect my skills. And suddenly that spring, the exact same spring that I got introduced to snowboarding, I get invited to speak at a seminar in Tennessee. And it was in the Pigeon Forge area. And I didn't have to speak until 9 o'clock that night. And I realized that if I'm in Pigeon Forge, I'm just really, really close to this place called Ober Rated. And Ober Rated advertises on their billboards. They have snowflakes and stuff. And it may be a place that's close enough. I'm going to be there anyway for work, that I could go and snowboard at Ober Rated. My wife was a school teacher. She was teaching at the time, wasn't yet retired. Lonnie Beth still lived at home, but she was going to be in school. So I decided I would go early. I would go to this seminar. I'd get there, maybe the night before, get up early in the morning, drive up to Ober Rated, and I would get to snowboard one more time before the season closed. I wondered what it would be like to snowboard in Gatlinburg. And I'm still wondering what it would be like to snowboard in Gatlinburg. You see, I've been ice boarding in Gatlinburg. I've been slush surfing in Gatlinburg. I've been how to ruin the edge of your board on pelletized ice in Gatlinburg, but I have yet to ski or snowboard in Gatlinburg. Skiing and snowboarding and Gatlinburg are like grilling with a vegetarian. You use the same words, but conceptually it's incongruous. You just can't get the two things to go together. Strapping on a snowboard and pointing it downhill in Gatlinburg makes about as much sense as trying to water ski in snowshoes. You see, my first experience on a snowboard was in Snowshoe, West Virginia. My second ski trip was in Winter Park, Colorado. And you know the saying, you go to Aspen to look, you go to Vail to be seen, but you go to Winter Park to ski. And I'd been there and I had skied and I liked it. And I liked the sport so much, I just had to have one more trip before winter got away. And so since I was going to be in Gatlinburg anyway, I decided I'd give this a shot. I had convinced myself that it would be the same. I mean, how different could it be? Snow, snow. Gravity is gravity. Hills are hills. Gravity works the same all over the planet. Down a hill is down a hill. A Tennessee hill is not exactly the same as a Colorado mountain. They describe the snow conditions as loose granular. That's Tennessee tourist trap talk for, hey, y'all, we made some homemade ice cream last night and throwed the salt and ice down the mountain. And we're going to let people try to ski on top of the snow, salt, and ice. Well, there's more ice and salt than there is snow. This theory of artificial snow sounds good, but it is not the same. I don't know what Ober means. It's probably some mixture of a Southern Appalachian word and a German word for fools will pay anything to believe that what they want to be real will be real when they get there. Forget about Disney as the Magic Kingdom. And by the way, if you think about Disneyland, Disney World, I just learned this. Disneyland, L.A., that's in California. Disney World, O-R, is in the word world. That's in Orlando. That's how you tell the two apart. To say that you can ski in Gatlinburg takes more imagination than Disney, Spielberg, Lucas, and J.R.R. Tolkien ever had in their entire lives combined. The quote-unquote runs at Ober Gatlinburg are shorter than the hill that goes by my house. My good friend Tim Oberson tried to warn me. He said, it won't be the same. You've experienced real snow. This is going to be disappointing. He cautioned me that since I had experienced the powdered champagne snow of the Colorado Rockies, I really wouldn't have fun in the wet, granular slush of Ober Gatlinburg. But I could not be dissuaded. I had convinced myself it would be the same. And I was wrong. Now, it doesn't matter that I had bibs, goggles, a Burton snowboard just like I had out west. It didn't matter that I had boots, gloves, and bindings and even rolled a ski lift just like I'd done in West Virginia. It didn't matter that all the billboards and even the lying delusional con man on the phone told me that skiing was possible in Ober Gatlinburg. It was not the same. No matter how bad I wanted it to be the same, it just wasn't the same. It wasn't real. It wasn't fun. It wasn't pleasurable. It wasn't authentic. And I really only have myself to blame. Sure, I had been deceived, but I'd worked real hard to deceive myself. We talk ourselves into and out of a lot of things. People tell themselves they'll be happy in another relationship, another job, or another church when they are unwilling, not unable, when they're unwilling to make the first one work. Our society has convinced us that sex is the same as love. Our society has convinced us that sex with the person you're not married to is the same or maybe even better or more exciting than the kind of relationship that God describes. We decide that even though it's going to be a little different, that little difference won't make any real difference at all. Well, Tennessee mountains as opposed to Rocky Mountains, for example, that difference is a big difference. We make elaborate plans and we have all kinds of reasons to convince ourselves it'll be just like we want it to be. or convince ourselves that it should be this way or it should be that way. And because it's not what we thought it should be, we decide we're going to change and accept a substitute. And there's not a substitute for the real thing. You can't find a substitute for authentic faith. You can't find a substitute for true intimacy. You can't find a substitute for true partnership. You can't find a substitute for a real friend, a real brother. You can't find a substitute for actual peace, success, satisfaction, or contentment. It sounds good. It looks good on the packaging. Sugar-free ice cream is ice cream without sugar. Artificial snow sounds great as a concept, but what it really means is the snow is artificial. It is not real. It's not authentic. You can't really snowboard if there isn't any snow. Now, you can ride a snowboard on AstroTurf. You can ride a snowboard down a sand hill. You can ride a snowboard on ice, and it may be close. It may involve similar mechanics, and it may involve exactly the same equipment, but it is not the real thing. It is not the same. And I guess when you think about this, maybe the worst part is that there are people who haven't been to snowshoe. They haven't been to Winter Park, and they've only tried to, quote unquote, ski at Ober Rated. But most folks who have this first encounter with skiing, if they've never been to Colorado, they've never been to Utah, and they've never been to West Virginia, and they get out on the icy slush that is in Gatlinburg, a lot of folks have this as their first encounter with skiing, and not only do they don't fall in love with it, they'll never try it again because they hated it. Very many people try to substitute relationships and never learn the value of real commitment. So many folks in our society are led to believe and try to convince others that sex is the same thing as love, that being intimate is the same thing as intimacy, that winning an argument is the same thing as being right, that getting your way is winning. There are a lot of people who try artificial spirituality and never learn about a relationship with God. We go to church, but we don't experience being the living church. A lot of people go to church and end up worshiping themselves. I didn't get anything out of it. What's in it for me, rather than going there to learn to serve? So many people are turned off by those people who peddle the word of God but don't have a clue about the will of God. They have that disingenuous, inauthentic experience, and they decide they don't want any part of it. Maybe the worst or the most regrettable thing, maybe worse than having been in real snow and getting burned or deceived by fake snow, or trying to use a substitute snow for the real thing. Probably the only thing worse than that, the only thing more pathetic, the only thing more deplorable maybe, is the folks who don't have any real experience with real snow. And they don't have the understanding that the fake snow is not trying to be real snow, but they believe that the fake snow is the only snow that there is. And they live in this condition, and they live these lives, and they're deceived, and they're lied to, and they lie to themselves, and they're conned, and they're snowblind. And they live their lives believing the fake snow is the real snow. The mission of Heritage Christian University is simple. They aim to advance the churches of Christ by equipping servants through undergraduate and graduate programs. Heritage Christian University produces effective communicators of the gospel, focusing on evangelism and a commitment to Scripture. Heritage Christian University is accredited by the Association for Biblical Higher Education and offers the following degrees: Associate of Arts in Biblical Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies, Master of Arts, Master of Ministry, and Master of Divinity. Since 1968, Heritage Christian University, formerly International Bible College, has offered affordable degrees in biblical studies, allowing graduates to thrive in their ministries without the burden of loan debt after graduation. For more information about Heritage Christian University, visit www.hcu.edu. That's 3 W's and a dot. hcu.edu. Heritage Christian University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use 2 large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to 3 W's and a dot, worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.